From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? I'm Aslan. Corey Clark's here as well as Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good. Go get yourself some fried chicken. It'll make everything better. It did for me on Sunday. So if it worked for me, it should work for you because, man, I'm not in the doldrums, and y'all are doing better than I am. So get your life better. Get some Zaxby's in it. Use the Zax sauce. It'll help you. I promise. Corey's here as well. We work for Warchant.com. Use the promo code Warchant30. Gets you 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source where you can read Ira's insight, Corey's insight, Gene Williams, Michael Langston. It does not stop. Corey! There you are. How are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. I actually I crushed some Zaxby's a couple nights ago.
All right.
Got the wings and things.
Ooh, let's go.
Wimpy. I got the Wimpy because you know how I roll. And, man, I'm not a big fan of potatoes in general. I think people know that. Not a big fry guy.
You're weird. I know. I can't believe it.
But you take those what do you call those types of fries at Zaxby's? Like crinkle?
Yeah, the crinkle fries.
And you dip them in that Zax sauce. And I'll be honest with you, I also had a little ranch.
All right.
And I combined the ranch and the Zax sauce.
Uh-oh.
It was doing a little double dipping in each. I'm telling you, that's the only way I can eat fries, and those things were tasty.
All right, something new. All right, I like this, like Dr. Chemist Clark, like mixing in all these.
That's right, buddy.
Yeah, there's I keep seeing on social media, I think like on Snapchat, there's these ads that play in between reading people's stories about Zaxby's and like a family pack they have where it's, it's like a family of four and it's like $25 or something and it's all this chicken. I need to talk to our poultry papa, see if that's running around nationwide or if that's like a regional or if it's, I don't know. It shouldn't be regional because it's on Snapchat. It's everybody's doing it. So
right.
I'll get some confirmation on that. I'll get back to everybody. I know you're dying to find out about that. So I should just always stick with Zaxby's. But can I get on my bully pulpit here for a minute, Corey, and use this platform to air grievances I have towards the local establishment that I won't name? Or is that
I feel like we should. Maybe that's not how we come out of the week. That's not how we come out of the gates firing.
All right.
That's something for later in the show. Give them a little, whet their appetite a little. Get them to hang around to see what you're going to say.
Okay. Speaking of whetting the appetite, how good was it to have something live sports related this past weekend? And I'm talking about the NFL draft, which is it's not live action sports, but man, it was live. It dealt with sports, it dealt with football. I really want to dive into the technical aspect of it. The fact they pulled it off was like no minor accomplishment, man. It's like up there with getting on the moon. And I'm not really being all that facetious. I don't know how they pulled it off. It was incredible. But the actual event itself, just being able to have something on television, on ESPN, where you could veg out on your sofa this weekend and have something that was pretty entertaining, just shows how starved we are and how awesome it's going to be once we finally get things back in the rotation.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I wondered how it would work, but I feel like I liked it better than the normal draft coverage because the first 15 or 20 picks, I don't need to see Dion interview the dude on the stage.
Yeah,
I just don't. And Susie Colbert, does she still do it? She's still around, right?
I think she's moved up, though. She interviewed Eli when he got drafted.
I dipped back about 15 years with that. But whoever ESPN's was, it's like those. Just tell me what the guy can do. I want to hear from the quote unquote experts. I want to hear discussions. I don't really need to see the guy after hugging Goodell go and talk to Dion for 2 minutes. I love the reactions in the homes. Mm-hmm. I thought that was great. I thought it added a really neat perspective that I hope they keep that in the future and you don't have a green room and you just let all those guys celebrate with the people they want to celebrate with in their homes. I hope they keep that because that to me, you got a lot more like actual information on the players and a lot more, maybe not debate, but interesting details, especially the people that have had family members die. Trey Wingo was all about jumping on that and letting us know If somebody was in prison, if a dad had passed away, if a mom had passed away. I think T Higgins, the Clemson receiver, whose mom had fought drug addiction for 16 years. That was in his little bio. You never knew what that last line of the bio on ESPN was going to say, but it typically wasn't going to be uplifting. It was going to be pretty depressing. I guess showing them the obstacles they had to deal with in their lives to get to where they were. But overall, I liked it a lot. I really did. Maybe it's because I don't usually watch all of the draft, but in this instance, I legit watched, 10 hours, 11 hours total, 12 hours?
Sounds about right.
I probably watched 90% of it.
Yeah.
And I really did. I enjoyed it a lot more than the usual, at least the first day, when so much of it, like they'll still be talking about the quarterback that was picked on with the first pick. Usually in pick 7 or 8, they're still talking about that guy, and that's why that's when they interview him. They might get him on set. Meanwhile, the defensive tackle from Notre Dame just got drafted, but we're still talking to this quarterback. I just thought it kept it more chronological with who we were talking about and who they were discussing, and it just kept it in a better rhythm for me. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, they're going to get guys back, though, in the green room and all that when it, gets back to quasi-normal or whatever next year. Or is it next year's in Cleveland, and then the year after that they're going to pay back Vegas and let them host it or whatever, so...
I guess, man. But didn't you I thought that was the coolest part of the whole thing, was seeing the people that were in their crew, not in their crew, the people that were in their house.
Right.
I'm sure a few of them were in their crews, but I don't know who was in Jake Fromm's house, but they got to hang out for 3 days.
Rocking the Mercer t-shirt. I like being able to see like the GMs and the coaches in their house, like in their office.
That too.
That was cool, I thought.
All
as
of it.
opposed to the war room. The war room's like, whatever. It's just some conference room in your overpriced stadium that was publicly funded. Let me see what kind of home decor you have. Let me see what kind of style and taste you have in your house. And I think we all can agree that we want to aspire maybe to come back in another life as Cliff Kingsbury.
Man, to me, I'll be honest, it was an incredible house, obviously, an incredible setup. It looked really lonely.
Oh,
like,
you're that guy. You're
just sitting there. There's nobody else in the picture. I don't think he's married, right?
No, he's not.
Forever bachelor, sitting there, but not even a pet, I don't think.
Why would you want a pet to sully that beautiful, immaculate home?
Right. Well, maybe he can stay in the backyard and try not to burn himself on the fire the fire pit in Arizona when it's 92 degrees. But yeah, it just looked like a guy that I bet he goes to bed each night going, man, this is lonely. I wish I had a 2-bedroom condo in the city, in the heart of the city. Yeah. Not this man that looks at this museum that I have to stay at. It's like a prison. I bet he feels like he's in a prison.
Yeah. That's right. Way to look at it. There's that half full perspective that offsets me. Anyhow, in terms of the seriousness of the day, in terms of relative to Florida State, Cam Akers was the first Florida State guy off the board, and if I'm not mistaken, he was the only player drafted from Florida State University. More than Miami, so 100% more than. Oh, actually, no, I should say not Miami. Ole Miss. I don't know. Couldn't take even a shot at Miami there. Ole Miss had nobody drafted, so we did that. We did 100% better than a team in the SEC. So onward and upward. Otherwise, a whole slew of undrafted free agents. Levante Taylor also joining Cam. Cam got drafted by the Los Angeles Rams. Levante Taylor, free agent signee with the Rams. Ryan Roberts going to Los Angeles, but with the Chargers. As is Gabe Neighbors, and Stanford Samuels III going to the cradle of pro football, and that is Green Bay, Wisconsin. So he's going to play with the Packers, hopefully, if everything works out. So Keith Gavin, I think, is the only one that maybe people thought would get picked up, and I haven't seen anything as we record this show. And if you have interest in former Florida State players, George Campbell, wide receiver, who ended up at West Virginia, signed with the Jets. So you wrote a story.
He wasn't drafted either.
Yeah, right. Yeah, undrafted free agent. You wrote a story. I did not read it because I figured it was probably going to slander John James Fisher II in some way, but there was a story on Warchant.com, and I guess it was a column, not really a story. I think it was more of a column from you, just proof positive of the reason, maybe another part of the formula of exhibits that go into talking about why Florida State has struggled the way they have for this long is fleshed out in the numbers when it comes to the draft, with only one guy getting drafted and that being a second rounder.
Aslan, I'm going to be honest with you. Part of the reason we have this show is to promote our website and make it seem like it's necessary that people have to get on the website to read what I have to say. And my insight that you were pumping up at the beginning of the show, and then I hear 24 hours later you still haven't read the column.
I don't want to get triggered. I don't want to get triggered. I don't want to. I don't want to see. This goes
no,
back to
you made an assumption. You made an assumption that was completely incorrect. I never even mentioned Jimbo.
No, really? Come on. This is You guys can still get some licks on him, man. Take advantage of it.
100%. Now look, there's certain licks to be made, sure, but no, it was more about. In fact, it was more about Norvell at Memphis, and the fact that I laid it out like, look, they had 3 players drafted. Florida State had 1. That's an embarrassment when you think about the resources and the recruiting stretch and the recruiting arm. That Florida State has compared to Memphis. But it's a good sign that Memphis evaluated and developed 3 kids that were drafted. Alex Atkins at Charlotte had a kid drafted in the 4th round, which Florida State has had 1 offensive lineman drafted that high in the last 6 years. Charlotte just had this was a 2-star recruit that went to Charlotte, and Alex Atkins turned him into an NFL draft pick. That's positive. That's encouraging. What Mike Norvell did at Memphis, that's the most draft picks in a 3-year stretch. Three draft picks, period, is the most in a year that Memphis has had since 2001. And the 7 that they've had in the last 3 years is the most that Memphis has ever had. So if you're looking for encouraging signs about what this guy can do, evaluation and development-wise, not recruiting-wise, because, again, Memphis and Florida State might as well be playing different sports when it comes to who they're recruiting. But evaluating and developing guys and NFL players from Memphis, you're taking 2- and 3-star guys at best and making them NFL players. Okay, well then what are you going to do with the 3- and 4-star guys you're getting at Florida State? That's where you kind of want to extrapolate that out, and you think, okay, there's a chance. It's not guaranteed, obviously, but that's a positive sign, right? That Memphis had some guys taken. It's obviously embarrassing that Florida State only had 1 kid taken, but part of that is also because 2 of their best players didn't go pro this year. They came back. And I think they could have 6 or 7 guys drafted next year. But also, I just thought it was funny. A lot the first part of the column was about how, Twitter made it such a big deal that the ACC didn't have many picks or that Florida State only had 1 draft pick. And it's like, man, are you trying to convince me that Florida State isn't a good football program right now? Because trust me, we're convinced. And I didn't need the draft to tell me that. I needed my eyesight the last 3 years. So that was kind of the first part was kind of tongue-in-cheek about that people like this was breaking news that Florida State wasn't going to have a very good draft and that the SEC was. And I thought it was really funny that Kendall Briles tweeted out what he did on Friday morning about the 15 first-round draft picks.
How many of those were from Arkansas?
0. Arkansas has had, it was in the story, I think they've had 3 first-round draft picks the last 18 years. Total, something like that, something ridiculous. Where I want to be like, Kendall, come on, man.
1 in their last 12. I've read the column.
That's what it was. Yeah, they've had 1 first-round pick in the last 12, and the OC for Arkansas is patting himself on the back because LSU and Alabama had 9. It's like, and that's my point. Is like these schools get so happy about these great accomplishments that the schools that beat their brains in every week accomplish. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah, that's great. You lost to a lot of guys. You lost by 50 points to a lot of first-round picks. Congratulations, Arkansas. But also, I did point out that Kendall Briles did tweet to Cam Akers and tell the Rams that they were getting a really good back and a kid that works really hard. And nobody would know that better than Kendall Briles because he knows what he was dealing with this past year. And for Cam Akers to have the season he had behind what he was behind with that offensive line, yeah, I think Kendall Briles is a huge fan of Cam Akers.
Can we put this out there for the coaches that are going to be grooming Brady Clark in the years to come? When he gets drafted, just say that whoever's getting him is getting a great player. I feel like he's getting a great player, but an even better person. Like, I don't think anybody ever said that about, like, Dion. No one ever said that about, like, Julio Jones. No one said that about, like, Tom Brady. Congrats to the Pats picking up Tom in the 6th round. Good player, but an even better person. Look at this. It's good. It's important to be a good human being. In no way, shape, or form am I discounting that. No one's getting drafted because of their character. They're getting drafted because they're supposed to be badass football players. Let's celebrate that. I just feel like it's never a good sign when people want to hop on. He's a really good kid, too. Cam is a really good player, or a really good kid, but he's an exceptional football player, and I think he's going to flesh out really well in the NFL. The Rams.
Is that what he said? I don't remember the tweet. Is that what he said?
So proud of the real Cam. LA's getting a great player and better young man. I think Willie tweeted the same thing too and added like hashtag best back in the draft, which, yeah, he could be. I think did Jonathan Taylor didn't go first, I don't think, did he? The running back from Wisconsin? I think somebody else went ahead of him.
No, the LSU kid, I think, was the first running back taken. And then it was Swift from Georgia, and then the Taylor kid from Wisconsin. I think Akers was fourth. All
right. Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire from LSU. Chiefs think he's going to be a better Brian Westbrook.
All right.
Good luck to them. Like that team needs more offensive firepower. But, yeah, I think, Willie did the same thing, like great player, even better human being. And this is me. I'm not really being I'm not being too serious about that. But it's like, hey, let's just say he's a really good football player because, that's what these guys are getting drafted.
Well, let me tell all those coaches out there what Aslan just said when it's in regards to Brady Clark. Do not listen to his advice. Okay. If you want to tell everybody that Brady Clark is a great kid, a great human being, on top of being a great athlete, I'm all for it. Have at it. In fact, tell all the coaches and all the GMs that when you meet with them before the draft. I just don't know a sport yet, Aslan. We still haven't decided a sport.
It's a good problem to have. Good problem to have, Papa.
Right,
good problem to have. It's just bizarre. I mean, how many years ago was it that Todd Gurley was the best running back alive? And then
two? I think two, right?
And then cut, and now here's Cam Akers. All right, make the best of these next 3 years.
Gurley's with the Falcons now.
Yeah. So.
But going back to Florida State, this isn't unprecedented. They had one draft pick in 2009, Everett Brown, and then they had one draft pick in 1987, which was Gerald Nichols. And so it's not like this is, and even in the dynasty, there would be years where they wouldn't have anybody drafted in the first 2 or 3 rounds, and there'd only be 3 guys taken. I mean, part of it is just the cycle of recruiting and maybe kids redshirted that didn't need you needed another year, however it plays out. I do think that just because Florida State did have one guy drafted, I think Stanford Samuels, again, just like Rudolph, just like Wilkerson, was there a player last year that declared and didn't get drafted?
Jalen, look at you pulling out the Jalen Wilkerson card. Tavares McFadden, you're maybe thinking a few years ago.
McFadden too. So, I mean, that's not great that you've had 4 players now in the last 4 years declare early for the draft and then not get drafted at all.
Yeah. It
just, I don't, maybe LSU and maybe there's been other schools that have had that many. It'd be hard for me to imagine that, but maybe that has. But you're also talking about Florida State's only had about 9 kids declare early in the last 4 years, maybe 10, and 40% of them haven't been drafted at all. It's odd. I don't know what it means. It was different coaching staffs going through there, and I don't think, looking back in hindsight now, we can blame someone like, we can blame Jalen Wilkerson, but, would Travis Rudolph have been helped by coming back he would have come back in 2017, right? He would have helped that team for sure. But yeah, even like somebody like Auden Tate, who was almost Mr. Irrelevant. Now he's been in the league now. He's caught on. He's been a nice player with the Bengals. I don't know that I can blame him for not coming back to play in that offense. But still, it's not a great look. It's not completely understandable why these kids get such bad advice. That, look, man, Stanford Samuels now has to go be an adult. I wrote a whole column about Travis Rudolph, and Travis Rudolph actually hooked onto the practice squad with the Giants, and then ended up playing I think a few games with them. I think he had 8 or 9 catches in his career, and now is in the CFL. So good for him. He's getting paid to play, but there's no guarantee that Stanford Samuels ever plays professional football. None. No. And it's a risk because when you're at Florida State, obviously you'd rather get paid. If he makes a practice squad, he's making more money than he would have at Florida State, but that's not a guarantee that you're making a practice squad. It's really hard as an undrafted guy to stick. So there's a chance when September 28th rolls around of this year, he won't be playing football for anyone. Meanwhile, he could be probably starting at Florida State, maybe helping his stock, but either way, it delays a year of getting, becoming an adult, having to go get a job, having to pay for your own food, having to pay for your own rent. Like all that's now on the table because he got either bad advice or was impatient or was just through with school. Whatever the case may be, I wish him luck. I hope he hooks on and has a career. But man, there's a risk to this thing. And I don't know if it's like you come in as a 5-star, you think no matter what you're going to get drafted. But these GMs don't care one iota about what you did in high school and if you were an All-American. Same thing with Tavares McFadden, or even what you did as a sophomore in Tavares McFadden's case. And man, it's a cutthroat world, and you go out there, you for some reason think that you're better than you are, and now you're not. You might not even be playing football. It's an odd choice, and I hope these guys start getting either better advice from the people around them or from this new coaching staff. But I'm certainly not saying that Taggart and company told him he should go pro. Or Norvell. I mean, Norvell was the guy, I guess, that was in charge when Stanford made that. Did Stanford still play in the bowl game? Do you remember? Or had he already made his decision?
Ah, man. I don't think he did. I will look it up, though. Let me look it up. On Seminoles.com, on the participation chart thing, he's not listed on a start, and he doesn't have an X, so he did not play in the game. So I'm going to assume he sat it out. Pretty sure he did sit it out. I think when we asked Odell, I think he even said that Stanford was one of the guys that wasn't going to participate in the game, if you will. So
that's just crazy, man. And he has a dad in the program, on the staff. It's just I just hate it for him. And I wish the NFL would have a rule where if you don't like where you're drafted, or if you don't get drafted at all, why is this kid now hung out to dry? He signs a $10,000, maybe, I guess he probably got a $10,000 guarantee from the Packers, maybe $5,000. I don't know. They could have probably done it for $2,000. Why can't they come back to school? It's so punitive. And look, I'm saying that not even knowing where he'd fit in the Florida State secondary coming back here. I would assume he'd start, but I don't know that for sure. They got some real dudes that can play in the secondary. But, obviously his stock is not high enough right now. The NFL just told him 255 times, hey, dude, you're not good enough. So why then can't he go back and, try to make himself good enough? I don't know. Just throwing that out there, Aslan.
Right. 144 players came out early in 2019. 49 went undrafted. That's 34%. And in 2018, I don't have the exact numbers here, but according to the story in the New York Post, also in 2018, 34% of the players went undrafted. So
that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's brutal. Yeah, when you really think about just the fork in the road.
So that's I don't want to call it an epidemic, especially considering what we're going through right now as a planet. But it is an epidemic in college football because though 34% of, what'd you say? How many kids declared?
144.
So that's like, my quick math is telling me that's like 50 kids.
Yeah, 49. 49 of the 144 went undrafted last year.
So those what are those 50 kids going to do? Maybe 2 of them make a team. They just, again, if they don't have any money invested in you, you better be Dion to impress them in the 2 or 3 weeks that you get before when they use you as a tackling dummy to then or a blocking dummy to then get a chance to actually make a team. You have to be really exceptional. So chances are, out of those 50 guys, maybe 46 of them or 45 of them won't be in the NFL come August 28th. Why? It seems so punitive that they can't go back to school now.
And especially when you think about the fact that there's going to be no mini camp in June, probably.
Right.
Like all that stuff, like rookie mini camp stuff, which usually starts this week. Like none of that stuff's going to happen. So that's just fewer opportunities. Go ahead.
And also, it's such extenuating circumstances because none of them got pro days. So maybe if Stanford Samuels has a pro day,
oh, absolutely,
and they're there, and he can somehow get into like the 4.55 range or 4.52, whatever he wanted to run. If he runs it live in front of them instead of, I'm sure he sent some video of him doing something, but I don't know if they're going to trust that. If he could run a little fast or do some workouts in front of those guys, his chances of getting drafted in the late rounds were completely diminished by not having a pro day. So with these extenuating circumstances, it seems like to those 50 kids, there should be a one-time exception, maybe just for this. And maybe as we go forward, it becomes the norm. But for right now, say the NFL could say, look, or college, I guess it would be more of a college football decision.
Are they going to have the scholarship open for the guy,
Yeah, just say, look, it's open. He can come back to school. He did not get drafted where he wanted to get drafted. If he got paid any money by an agent, he can give it back or vow to get whatever. Who even cares? And just come back to school. I don't know.
All the proceeds.
And I'm not speaking specifically about Stanford Samuels. I'm speaking about all of them.
Yeah. This year, there was 115 players who declared early. I don't have the numbers on how many of them went undrafted. A deeper dive of the number shows that 1,542 players left college early since 1990. 1,111 of them were chosen, so 72%. So it shows you that really it's these last few years that have really put a dent in that number. Like the people that left early made sense. But I think now, maybe I don't know if it's because the way the CBA is and the way the rookie contracts are capped now, it's get out, get your first contract started so you can re-sign for that second one, which is the important thing. And then what we know about, the health of these players, brain trauma and all that kind of stuff is just get on with the pro career already. Who cares? Just get picked up somewhere and then make the best of it. But it doesn't always kind of obviously work out that nice and easy. But yeah, so what are we going to talk about next year, though, when Marvin goes first round, Terry goes maybe first round, we'll say he goes second round, Asante maybe goes first round, Hamza works his way into a day 2 pick, and I don't know, there might be another player or two. Corey Durden maybe works himself into a 3rd or 4th round guy. Then what's the narrative? Because I really have read your story here during the show while you've been talking. So you're not really taking shots at anybody. You're saying that there's poor player development. It's just, isn't this just kind of the cycle of where Florida State is, big picture macro? They're going to have a bad year. We thought the 13-14 seasons were just going to be the new standard where every year there was going to be 3 or 4 first-round guys. But unfortunately, at least in the foreseeable future, Florida State probably is in this sort of pattern where they're going to have up seasons and down seasons when it comes to the draft, or is your kind of hope or whatever is that Mike Norvell is going to have the ability to develop these guys so that they don't have a season like this where one person gets drafted?
Well, yeah, the latter, I guess, that the draft is a gauge of how good your program is, but it's not always a perfect one. Like I said, the 1987 draft, they had one kid selected, and then they were in the top 4 for the next 14 years. So it's not always a gauge of, maybe that's coming, folks. Hey, maybe that's coming. And in fact, the last time was 2009 with Everett Brown, and then the deluge came a few years later. So just buckle up, folks. The cavalry's coming. But it's just a gauge. The wins and losses tell us all we need to know about Florida State's program right now. They do have to get more elite talent. But you can get, if you're coached well enough at a place like Florida State, you're still recruiting from the biggest pool, the best pool in the country. You're not landing nearly as many as you used to, but you're still recruiting guys that Charlotte and Memphis could only dream about. So if they're getting developed at the same rate those guys at Memphis were getting developed, then wouldn't you imagine that those 4 stars that Florida State recruits, in 3 years you're going to have 7 or 8 guys drafted? Like Willie, for all the things we talked about with Willie when he took over the job, it's not like he had a great track record in the draft. He had never made really any history in the draft. Norvell has. And I do think that's telling. I think that's probably more telling that he didn't just develop Memphis into a good program, which was great. The wins are probably more telling. But still, I think to back that up, you see what he's doing in the draft. And that's something you can sell to players that you're recruiting now, because none of them know Mike Norvell. Not many of them anyway. Really understand what Mike Norvell did at Memphis. The kids that Florida State's going to be recruiting now against the likes of Alabama and LSU. But I do think when you have a coaching staff like this, and it looks like a good one from top to bottom, if you have 5 kids drafted, that means that, I'm not saying that's 4 extra wins, but it's probably an extra win, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think? When you have draftable players and kids that actually get drafted, I just don't think it's not a coincidence. So I do think the draft is important, but I think Mike Norvell, I guess the point of the column is I personally do think Mike Norvell will get them back to where they're flooding the draft again. I don't necessarily know that they'll do what LSU did this year. I'm not expecting that. 5 first-round picks is nuts. 14 overall is pretty incredible. But I don't even think Randy Moss's kid was drafted.
I don't think so.
Which is nuts. So they had 14 guys drafted. I don't know that we can expect Norvell to do anything like that, but I think you can get back to those days of 11 and 12 when you start to see the product, what the work that Jimbo had been doing in evaluating and developing and recruiting these guys. You start to see it pay off. I do think that next year, and I've said it before, but I think when you're going to be around guys like Asante Samuel, Marvin Wilson, Tamari Terry, you have early round picks on your team. Though they should beget more early round picks. Like you have now they don't have a ton of guys like Tamari and Terry on their roster, but they have one. I think Warren Thompson has similar traits to Tamari and Terry. And if Tamari and Terry turns into a guy that busted every day in practice, then that rubs off on Warren Thompson. Just like, whoever, Derek Brooks rubbed off on Sam Coward. Like I think those things can happen.
Yeah, like LaMarcus onto Jalen onto Derwin, but then
Then it kind of dried up. And Derwin on to Tavares. That's another one with McFadden. You just wonder, because they were 5 stars and they signed with that particular Florida State program, this inflated sense of what they were is just bizarre to me. It's just bizarre. And I don't know if Stanford Samuels is like the last vestige of that. But hopefully now everybody, and starting with Marvin and Tamari, and I think it is a big deal that those guys came back. Starting with those 2 guys, hopefully everybody on the roster now understands that, just because you signed at Florida State doesn't mean you need to start doing cartwheels and pat yourself on the back for being a big-time player, because other than those 2 guys and Asante and a few others, none of these guys on this roster have proven to be big-time yet. So quit acting like you are. It doesn't matter that you beat up on Eli High School. Do something at the college level. Earn it. Earn it, Aslan. That's what I'm trying to say.
I got you.
Earn it.
Well, Norvell kind of in a way has hedged himself with the Rams, because I think Darrell Henderson is probably going to be the number 1 running back for them, and he was the running back at Memphis when Norvell had things rolling, and then you got Cam Akers.
Oh, there you go.
So, Florida State fans, you kind of hedge yourself there. So if the Rams have a good running game, it's like no matter what, you should feel good about yourselves. But yeah, it's extremely encouraging when you point something out like that. And,
but what do you, as a Florida State fan, what do you feel about seeing one guy drafted? Is it embarrassing? Is it more of a no duh?
Yeah.
Like we knew this going in? What are your feelings on that?
Yeah, more of the latter. I mean, if Marvin and Terry declare, then you got 3 guys drafted. You maybe have a first rounder, a second rounder, and a fourth rounder. And that's not embarrassing. So I mean, it's just kind of the way the cookie crumbled with this season. Yeah, it's like a no duh thing. I've never taken all that much. I don't know. I know I've taken pride in the draft. I lied. I remember, what was this? It was like 2006, where Bunkley got first round and Ernie went first round, and
Cromartie.
Yeah, we had a whole bunch of people went first round one year, even though we had like a 7-win team, and I was like, yeah, we still got it, man. We got it. Yeah, and just we saw this coming, right? Just when everybody started sitting out the bowl game because they were getting ready for the draft, and you're kind of looking at these people, and you're like, what draft? I mean, I think you joked about like what draft? The the CFL draft. But yeah, we kind of knew what was coming. So
you think about the fact that to me kind of tells you that paints a perfect picture of what Florida State football has been the last few years. Is that you had a player like Dontavius Jackson and you had Stanford Samuels both sit out the bowl game, which for all we know might be the last organized football game they ever had a chance to play. And they sat it out for what? Hornibrook too. Like what to go get ready for what draft, man? Like I think doesn't that, and again, I'm not one of these guys that think you have to be loyal to your school or show some loyalty. I get it, man. If you're Derwin James or Dalvin played, or Cam Akers, yeah, go bounce. But why wasn't Dontavius there? Why wasn't Stanford there? Why wasn't Hornibrook there? Because they didn't have any pride where they played, in my opinion. Because that's where it had fallen to. And I'm not taking shots at those guys. I know it feels like I am. I'm not. Because I certainly would be like, if I was them, I might be, yeah, what's the point of this? Or maybe they were told, hey, don't worry about it. We don't know. But you had 3 or 4 players sit out a bowl game, a meaningless bowl game, really, and they didn't end up getting drafted at all. So how much did they really care if Florida State won that game or not, or if Florida State was good at all? You could say not at all, right? Like the people listening to this may have cared more about if Florida State won the Sun Bowl than those players that didn't play. And maybe that's something that has to be kind of scrubbed clean of this program a little bit. And I know I'm speaking in psychological terms, and I do not quite have my PhD, so take it all with a grain of salt.
Well, you've been doing online courses at home, right, throughout this pandemic?
Yeah, and I constantly have 2-hour-long sessions with Brady, where he just lays on the couch and tells me about his dad issues, which is a little weird, obviously.
Tighten up.
I feel like that's, maybe he should be talking to another psychologist, but what are you going to do? I'm the only one here.
Let me drop a conspiracy theory on you. The people I think might not expect to come from me because it paints Jimbo Fisher in a negative light. Do you think there was any sense of it's us versus them with Jimbo? Now, I think in 2014, everybody felt that. Even as fans, it was Florida State against the world.
Sure. I felt it as a media member.
Yeah. But do you think that at some point, 15, 16, now, guys like Cam and Stanford, I don't think we're on the roster yet. At least I know Cam wasn't. Cam signed in 17. But at least in 17, for sure, that Jimbo had this kind of thing of it's us versus them, or he created this me versus them in terms of I'm Jimbo, me against the administration, whether it's Stan Wilcox, whether it's Andy Miller and the boosters. He created this kind of thing of, they won't give me what I want. I want stuff that's going to make all you guys better. They won't give it to me. It's not only me versus them, like it's all of us versus them. Like no one's got our back. All we have is each other. All we have is this sort of team that it created maybe this kind of disillusionment with the players that they weren't playing for the university. And credit to Willie for trying to create some of that with the singing the fight song with the fans after games. But there was a couple threads on the message board about how come players haven't donated money. All the players that got drafted under Jimbo have made like $250 million in NFL money, and none of them have donated back to university, at least nothing that we know explicitly, right? They haven't renamed anything. Jonathan Vilma has a building in the University of Miami. Curtis Granderson has something named for him at wherever he played in terms of baseball. I do wonder if Jimbo, created this sort of culture of, screw everybody else, man. Let's go out there. Let's win games. Let's get you in the league. And, that's all that really matters. And there maybe needs to be that sort of holistic grassroots thing of we need to play for something bigger than just, the paycheck that we hope to get in 3 years.
Yeah, maybe. It still worked for him, though, right? When it was going well, whatever. I don't think his attitude shifted after 13 or 14. I feel like Jimbo always was kind of a antagonist when it came to things he wanted, and probably didn't speak positively all the time about the administration, but it didn't matter too much from 12 to 14. They still won a ton of games. I think there's maybe a little validity to that. I think it was more along the lines of you had a lot of guys that, and again, I hate speaking like this because it sounds like such just nonsensical armchair psychology. But I think once they became the best program in the country, I think a lot of kids went to Florida State, not for what they could do for Florida State, but what Florida State would do for them. Yeah. Like my John F. Kennedy. Yep. And they didn't have, they were using Florida State, which is fine, do it. But they were using Florida State more for, I don't feel like maybe some of them had a great connection to the school. Now, I don't know if I can say that about Stanford Samuels. His dad played at Florida State. So I don't necessarily know that that's true. But I think more than anything, and instead of the armchair psychology, I think it was just kids that were hurt, the guy that drafted them, the guy that they thought was going to take them to the league, get them in the league and win a lot of games because he had done it before, bounces for the Cal College that's never won anything, leaves them in the lurch, and then he gets replaced by a guy that just wasn't up to the task. And they did not come to Florida State to get embarrassed weekly on national television. And I think that just takes the soul out of you as a player a little bit. And of course you don't try as hard. Of course you don't get as many looks either because, I'm sure during the 2012 to 2015 run, there were probably a handful of Florida State guys that got drafted simply because they were Florida State guys. Like, we'll take a chance in the 6th round on that kid. He played at Florida State. He's come from a winning program. He knows what it takes. That's not you're not getting the benefit of the doubt now when it comes to Florida State. Part of that is because of Jimbo's last year, I think, but most of that is these last 2 years and just the debacle that it was. And I think Norvell can instill that. I do think that moving forward, these players will be coached better. I think they're going to be more accountable. I think they're going to be less entitled. And I do think that the scouts, when they recruit Florida State, I do think that they'll think they come from a program that values the right things. That's a complete opinion. I'm just going on what he did at Memphis in the 5 months that we've watched him at Florida State. But wait till he loses that first game, folks, and I'll be on him.
Well, didn't Willie preach accountability and the players?
He did, but was there any?
I mean, can you give us like examples of where it wasn't? Like, I don't want to be the Taggart defender here. I just think there's a lot of things that
the numbers thing. The only dudes wear the single digits.
Okay, that's
and
fair.
You got to earn those back. And literally every single one got it back, including guys that punched Clemson players when they were down by 50 points. They still got to wear those numbers. I think guys kicking field goals before games, like with 50 minutes to go or 60 minutes to go in warm-ups, instead of running routes, they're kicking field goals. I think guys being in the parking lot, talking to family members an hour and a half before the game, or maybe closer to 2 hours still, just hanging out in the parking lot. It's a bad look, man. So I don't know what I think there was accountability maybe when it came to classwork and that it did matter to him much more than it seemed to matter to Jimbo. But I think on the field, a perfect example is, it's Louisiana Monroe game where Dontavius Jackson gets the crazy personal foul on the kick return after Florida State had just taken the lead. And then he's back in the game later on that drive. When I thought we had been told expressly that if you made a play like that, because the penalties were out of control, and he said that if you make penalties like that, you don't get to play the rest of the drive. And then meanwhile, Dontavius is out there after making one of the more boneheaded. What did he do? Did he punch the kid? Did he grab his face? I can't remember what he did in the pile after that kick return. But and it was something that Derek Brooks was talking to him on the sideline after that play. Not one of the coaches, but Derek Brooks. And I just think it's things like that I think all of that mattered, and I think they just there didn't seem to be Tamarian. I don't want to just pick on Dontavius because I've been picking on him a lot here the last 10 minutes. Tamarian, who we all know is one of my favorite players of all time in any sport. That's my guy. Batman. Is he Batman? Isn't that what he called? Or what does he call himself? Scary Terry?
Scary Terry. TT Batman, I think is like his Twitter
Batman is his Twitter name.
Yeah.
But so after they get they have those crazy penalties. I wish I could remember more from the 1989 season than I can from.
I'm looking at Dontavius Jackson was pretty much cranking the running back's neck as he was already down, and then he shoved his head, and it was pretty weak. And then the running back,
I feel like the week before something had happened. I'm speaking specifically about Tamarian Terry. It was another bad week of just awful penalties, and then he catches that ball.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's Louisville, right?
I think so. Yeah.
And he's running free because the cornerback, they just forgot about him. And then when he gets to the 10-yard line, he flashes deuces to the guy.
Yeah.
Which could have been, and by letter of law, should have been a penalty. Now, I don't think it should be a penalty. I think he should have been able to do he should have been able to dry hump the football as he was going down. I think all those penalties are dumb. But by letter of the law, that could have and should have been a penalty. And my man is flashing deuces in the middle of that game when they're down by 4 points that could have cost them a win. Did he even get a talking to about it? Did he get told not to do that again?
Yeah,
did he get told not to wear the mask?
We asked Willie, right? Willie was like, "Yeah, we talked to him."
But why would he even feel like that was something? Do you think I guess I'll put it this way, and people know I'm not the biggest defender of Jimbo Fisher. Do you think a Jimbo Fisher player would have flashed deuces at the 10-yard line in the fourth quarter of a game?
Probably not.
Now, they played hangman, and right. Jimbo gave him grief about that, that's where Jimbo kind of we went the wrong way with it. They're having fun. They didn't know anybody was taking a picture. They were just playing hangman on the sideline because they were up by 55 points again. But I don't think Jimbo, and I don't think I don't maybe more importantly, I don't think Mike Norvell will have a player on his team flash deuces at the 10-yard line to someone, because I do believe Mike Norvell would lose his mind if one of his players did that.
And I wasn't, and that was a really well articulated comeback. I was not trying to discount or downplay the importance of accountability, but I just think when I'm thinking about the things of Mike Norvell that get you a little bit optimistic, that wasn't like the first thing that popped to my head, but is obviously an important thing to get the foundation laid properly and evenly. So by all means, that's a good thing. But anywho, speaking of the draft kind of personnel moves, Jameis Winston signs with the Saints. 1-year deal. I haven't even seen the financials on it. Have you?
Well, as we're recording this, I don't even know that it's actually – I mean, it's all been reported that it's happening or they're getting close or they're finalizing it, but I don't know that they've actually reported that it's happened.
I think it has, because I saw Will Lutz, who I think is the punter.
The kicker, yeah, I saw that too, but then I saw on the bottom line saying they're close to a deal. I just think it's like it's a worst-kept secret, but it's going to happen. But no, I don't think anything official has been announced.
No,
that's
the
why
NFL,
we don't know the numbers.
The official NFL account tweeted it at like 12:48 p.m. So, yeah.
Well, Aslan, what do they know?
Yeah, no, you're right. I didn't see that coming. Shout out to Bryant McFadden, apparently a BMAC, a former Florida State second round. Was he first round pick?
Second round, I think.
Second round pick.
But played in the league for like a decade.
Yeah.
Won a Super Bowl, too.
Yeah. Kind of a few months ago, called out that he thought the Saints would be possibly the best landing spot for Jameis. I didn't see it coming. You got me sold on the Steelers thing. I still think the Steelers thing is probably would have been the best kind of landing spot. But the Saints are somewhat similar in the fact that, not that Drew Brees is frail. I mean, he hurt his thumb last year and then came back and really didn't skip a beat. But he's long in the tooth. He's on the. I mean, even though people's careers keep getting extended, that's a great franchise right now. And Sean Payton, I don't think Sean Payton's going to go off into the sunset if Drew Brees, retires here in the next 2 years or whatever. So Jameis is in a good spot. But the 1-year thing is kind of like, well, what if he does nothing this year? Then what's going to happen? But that's a really good franchise. That's a really good offensive system. That's a really good coach. And I think I really like the match of Sean Payton with Jameis. My whole thing was, I think in 13 he feared and respected Jimbo. I think in 14 there was like no fear and some semblance of respect. And then when he got to the NFL, I mean, I don't think Dirk Cutter really. I mean, Jameis knows how to say the right things, understands what it takes to play winning football. He has a championship under his belt in college. He's won the Heisman. Like he's got a great mind when it comes to understanding what it takes to become a success in football. I think maybe sometimes he also might kind of overvalue how much he knows, and I just don't think he ever really respected Dirk Cutter. Lovie Smith was kind of a paper tiger of a coach. He gets fired after year one. They promote Cutter just to pretty much like coddle and appease Jameis. Like, hey, look how good he did. Let's keep this thing rolling. The quarterback of the future. Dirk Cutter was not a very strong personality. And then Bruce Arians, I love Bruce Arians, but Bruce Arians, I don't know if he has the. I'm not trying to downgrade. I really do like Bruce Arians, but it's like Jameis needs someone who's going to chew him out and get on him. And I think Arians is more of a laid back kind of approach where you need to self-police yourself more than he's going to get on you. I think he just hopes that he creates an environment that people take the accountability themselves and the onus to be responsible and do the right things. Like Sean Payton don't mess around. Sean Payton's off the Parcells tree. Like, he'll get on Drew Brees still at practice. I think this is the kind of stern leadership or coaching that Jameis really has lacked since he's been in the NFL, and could be a potentially really interesting marriage if it works out.
Yeah, I'm more interested not in the Peyton aspect of it, in just being in the same room with Drew Brees every day. Like, you're literally talking about one of the 5 best quarterbacks of all time. The guy just will not retire. And as a Falcons fan, it's ridiculous that the dude he's 41 years old, man.
Yeah.
And he won't retire. Just go, man. Go be with your kids, you big baby. You scared to be a dad? anyway, that's just me as a Falcon fan talking. He actually seems to be a really good dude, which
Yeah.
makes it even worse.
That's awesome.
That he's apparently a really good guy. But
actually, real quick, it's funny. When I was in Mississippi in 2015, he was there as a keynote speaker at some event, and we had like exclusive access to get an interview with him, and I had like this one-on-one with him. And it's 2015, and literally like one of the questions I asked him was like, how much gas do you think you have left in the tank coming up on, season whatever, 9 or whatever it was of him being in the NFL? And he's like, well, I just hope I can keep playing at the level. And that was like 2015. It's like 5 years later, he's still like breaking records and just tearing.
I mean, I think he's about to start. This will be his 20th or so. I'm almost positive he was in the same draft as like Peter Warwick.
Yeah, you're right. Because he was in the Heisman.
Wasn't he in the Heisman race with
like
Peter Warwick and Ron Dane?
Yeah. So it's 2015. He's like 15 years in the league, and I'm like, yeah, you ain't got much longer, right?
Of course. Why would you think he did? Nobody plays that long. But hey, Brady might play till he's 50. Breeze might play till he's 45, and all these other young quarterbacks will just be like, "Oh, I guess I picked the wrong time in the history of football to be a quarterback." But I just think being around Drew Brees can do nothing but help him. Look, it's never been a question of talent with Jameis. He still, even in the 30-30 season, he made some throws that were just ridiculous, both ways. And that's the problem. It's the other side where he just literally will throw it right to a linebacker's chest. That Drew Brees never does that. Drew Brees will, I think we did this already, this game, but I think Jameis threw more interceptions last year than Drew Brees has thrown in the last 4 combined. In like whatever that would be. What would that be? 1,500 more pass attempts?
Here, you want a depressing stat? Jameis Winston has completed 10 career passes to Saints players. Taysom Hill has completed 7.
Well, look, come on now. That's only 1 interception a game, right? Hasn't he played those guys 10 times? That's not too bad. How many has he thrown to he threw 4 to 49ers this year, I think.
It's great. That was a tweet I read, and the first response, it must be a Florida State guy. If not, it's just some guy from Oregon. An average of 1 interception per game for his career against the Saints. Ooh, burn. Jameis is an easy target, but this is just weak.
Yeah, I think it's more of like a shot at Taysom Hill. Like, you don't trust that guy to throw it all. To your point. But I do think that being around Drew Brees, and you're talking about one of the all-time greats, a guy that sees it quickly, gets it out of his hand quickly, doesn't have as big an arm as Jameis, certainly doesn't now, as Jameis does. I think you can learn a lot, and I think this is the pivotal year in Jameis Winston's career. If he can impress those guys when he's there for a year, and that's another thing that people have to realize, like, nobody knows Jameis Winston better than the Saints and Sean Payton. They've coached against him, I guess Dan Quinn. They've coached against him every year. So they would not take him if he thought he was a joke. You know what I mean?
No one thinks he's a joke.
Well, no, but I mean he's become a punchline. Right? He's just like you said, the guy's tweeting about more completions to Saints players than Taysom Hill. So they know he can play. And if he can be there for a year, and he'll probably get a couple, you would think he'd get a couple games, whether at the end of the year when Drew Brees is resting or because he gets hurt, whatever the case is, he'll probably play 1 or 2 games. But if he can impress them in all the other weeks, and they see what he knows, and they see him improving with his decision making, there's a chance that guy will be taking over for Drew Brees if the son of a gun ever retires. That Jameis Winston might be the next guy. And Sean Payton might have all the belief in the world in Jameis Winston, depending on how this year goes. They might re-up him for another year. They might give him a long-term deal. I don't know. Or maybe the Packers will trade for him.
There you go. Cheer up, Aaron Rodgers.
Golly. That is a bizarre. Did you see that since Aaron Rodgers has been there, they have never drafted a skill player in the first round?
Yeah.
But they've drafted a quarterback. It's funny. And apparently he must be like one of the worst human beings on earth. Like the way teammates talk about him when they leave, the fact that he doesn't talk to any of his family members, which is just weird. Right. It's just like, what's his name, the golfer. It's odd when you just don't talk to parents, period. Yeah, it's a Patrick Reed, right?
Yeah. I think on the Russillo was saying on his podcast that apparently he knows somebody that works at the agency that represents Aaron Rodgers, and the person was saying that Aaron Rodgers like all-time grudge holder, just like the most like vindictive, resentful person they've ever met in their entire life. So it's like, good luck to Jordan Love.
And is there something there with like, I mean, obviously there have been a lot of people that have been nice. We just talked about Drew Brees doesn't seem like a sociopath.
No.
Or he does. Let's say he doesn't have a sociopathic grudge holding ability.
Yeah.
But Aaron Rodgers apparently does. Michael Jordan apparently does. Like, is there some weird psychological profile of all-time great athletes where they're just a little screwed up?
Sounds like this should be your dissertation for your doctorate, Corey.
That's a good point, man, and that's coming up next year. That's a good. And I've got the paper I'm writing on the sessions with Brady.
Okay.
Where we worked through a lot of stuff. It sounds like his dad's kind of an ass. Oh, man, sorry, folks. Sorry for the language.
Oh, man. All right. That's probably about the time where we should start wrapping things up here anywho.
Okay, hey, well, so regale us with your complaint about the weekend in the local establishment.
No, I don't know. I mean, just it's going to be a losing proposition. I want to try to change people's minds, but I don't think I'm the right person to carry the message.
Hey, you were about to lead the show with it, and now you don't want to talk about it at all?
Well, we're talking about food. It made sense. How about if people feel weird about like going to a place like Zaxby's because they don't feel like it's local? And I think you've mentioned this. Like, listen, Zaxby's is a franchise.
Locally owned.
Yeah, they're locally owned. The people that work at that they're not flown in or bused from other states. Right. They live in your neighborhoods. Like, you go and you want to go eat at those places. You're supporting them as well. Like, dude, I mean, I put in the group text with you and Ira. Like, and listen, my mom's a nurse, and it's pretty comforting and cool just to see how many people are kind of rallying around healthcare workers and doctors and nurses and trying to kind of hold them up and support them. And like, commercial after commercial is almost treating restaurant workers like they're right behind the people that put the flag up in Iwo Jima. And I understand that everybody's struggling, and maybe
this was what you were going to be on. I didn't know we were giving you this platform. I thought you were going to talk about.
I spent $38 on a half gallon of sangria and $59 on a charcuterie board at a restaurant in Tallahassee, not Manhattan.
Sweet charcuterie.
Charcuteries. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, no, that's right. I miss charcuterie boards.
By the way, apparently somebody said that it is modern day. I love how you guys have a 50% hit rate on pronunciations of names west of the Continental Divide, like it's 1980s pre-internet Thomas Guide, given that Corey is so declarative on other facts. Things like it can only be said San Francisco, never San Fran or Frisco. I don't care. Just saying you all sound so small town sometimes. Sorry, just passing on the info. No offense. So take no offense.
I don't give two flips about whether I pronounce matter day right or not. Number one, there's no dictionary definition of like, hey, this is how you pronounce matter day. So Corey pronounces it matter day. You say tomato, I say matter day.
Well, so I spent like 5 minutes looking up menus in Manhattan, and I found some foo place in Midtown Manhattan that serves Spanish tapas and stuff.
I think you mean frou.
Okay, frou. There we go. Thank you. And like they serve tapas and Spanish plates, and their sangria for a pitcher is like $36. So like I spent it's like $2 more. Not that big of a deal. I was talking to a young lady, and we were going to have like a little picnic in the park, and she was like, I suggested we do this other restaurant, not Zaxby's. She hasn't deserved it. She hasn't earned it yet.
Sure.
It was another restaurant in town that I think is doing something really cool. They do like individual meals for like one person and it's like a 3-course meal for one person, and it's like $25, or you can order dinner for two. That's like $40. So I'm like, that's really economical. It's a really good restaurant. I've been there before. You and the first lady of Wake Up Warchant, Stephanie, went one time, so I went there as well. And I'm like, okay, so that's fair. I'm sure everybody else is doing something kind of cool like that. Well, the young lady I'm talking to says, that sounds like a lot of food. How about we grab a charcuterie board and sangria from this restaurant? I'm like, okay, sure. So I go on their website, and there's literally something called like the date night box. And I'm like, oh, here it is, the charcuterie board. And it's like $53 or something. I'm like, geez, all right, well, that's a pretty expensive charcuterie board. But, hey, it comes with sangria. So I order it. I show up to the place, and like it's like Chernobyl. They wheel it out to your car on a cart, and the person's got gloves on and a mask and everything, which, cool, thank you, I appreciate that. And then it's just a charcuterie board. I'm like, there's no sangria? They're like, I don't think so, no. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, can I order sangria, or do I need to order it on the app? And they're like, that'd be easier. I'm like, okay. I put the charcuterie board in the back seat of my car, grab my phone, and I scroll through their menu to order sangria, and it's like $38 for a half gallon of sangria. That's ridiculous. That's absurd. And like all their cocktails I've had before are usually between like $9 and $13, and they're charging $20 right now. So I guess like the model here is we're just going to put like a 40% surcharge on most of our things to keep us in business, which I understand. You got to do what you got to do. But this whole thing of like we need to do our civic duty and support local restaurants. It's like, people are trying to step up and we're trying to help out, but like let's kind of meet somewhere in the middle maybe. I don't know. I thought it was ridiculous.
How was the charcuterie?
Well, here's the thing. Your boy doesn't eat swine, so I couldn't eat even half of the stuff on there. But they had various jams and jellies that were quite delicious.
That's good.
The bread was nice and dense. It was good bread.
Okay.
It was a good charcuterie board, but I feel like if you go to a restaurant, if you go to that restaurant...
Did y'all feed it to each other?
No. The thing, she wasn't even hungry. She's like, actually, I'm not even really hungry. And I'm like, well, you're taking this home then. I didn't complain about the cost of everything, but I'm just like, well, somebody's going to take this home and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's the thing is you can't call her back and be like, look, I'm not doing the charcuterie sangria thing. That's almost $100.
Yeah.
Are you crazy?
And then we
can get a $25 family pack at Zaxby's.
Yeah, and then they serve the sangria came in like the kind of container you would get soup in at like a Panera, like a large quart plastic container that like potato salad at a tailgate is served.
Oh, really?
In.
Yeah,
then
we ordered I guess a gallon of beer from an establishment in Tallahassee, and it came in a milk gallon.
No, that's what I was expecting. I thought they were going to put it like in a half-gallon milk jug. Like
but
these, no one, and we all want to go back to work and get back to like no one's prepared for anything right now. But hopefully,
hey, it's coming though, man.
It's
coming. It's coming around the corner. DeSantis said on Sunday that the antibodies tests are coming in early May. That's going to be a key to the whole thing, and we're going to be backing at them in no time. Brady's going to be playing baseball again, and we're going to be watching football come September.
Here's my thing.
I'm on it now. I'm bullish on that. I'm bullish on the fact that we'll be watching football.
Here's my thing. You go to a certain establishment in town that you like. Like, do you want to go there and everything is just kind of the way it used to be? Like I'm thinking about the place I went to order all this extravagant food at, and it was totally overpriced. But like, if you're going to start doing these things, you're going to open up restaurants. Like, you need to have like hand sanitizer on the bar every 5 feet. You need to. People cannot be sitting elbow to elbow at a bar. Like, you need to have masks available if you're a grocery store. I mean, I think like I'm all about getting back out there, and we got to get back to work. I understand that. But, like, if we're not going to have, like, hand sanitizer available for everybody, if there's not masks available for everybody, if they can't figure out proper ways to package food for to-go orders, like, I'm supposed to feel like they're going to be ready to host 50 people churning in and out every 30 minutes in a bar? Like, that's what kind of threw me off. It's like, this is what you guys are putting together for to-go orders? Like, you've known for the last 3 weeks you can't serve food in your restaurant, and you got to get people to go orders. Like, this is like your plan? I don't know.
Hey, buddy, I'm with you. I understand. I understand your
Am I
fire.
being cheap? Am I being cheap? Here's my thing. Being cheap is a really bad thing these days. And I'm like, I appreciate the value of a dollar. I'm not cheap. I'll spend money on things that deserve this money to be spent on. You get what you pay for in this world. I get it. That was exorbitant in Tallahassee, Florida.
But if the reality is you and other people paying, 25% more than normal keeps those businesses open and keep those jobs available, I think you're doing your civic duty. I know you just poo-pooed that earlier, which is obviously poo-poo is derived from saying poo twice.
Right.
We found that out last week. But I think that's part of doing your civic duty. So I think you should feel proud about that, man. That restaurant might be able to stay open, employ more people an extra couple of days, because they got you to spend $100 on that. Just saying.
It's funny you say that because you have to tip them through a third-party app, like I guess whatever they use for their credit card processing online didn't have an option to tip, so they have these chalkboards that tell you, go to Venmo us a gratuity. So I Venmo them the gratuity, and in Venmo you have to put a reason for why you're submitting payment. And my reason was like, I guess this is my civic duty. So that's what I put for the note.
Hey, even if you just do it begrudgingly, you're still doing it, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
Yeah. All right, on a better note, later on this week, obviously we'll do Renegade Express at the end of the week, but on Wednesday we'll go ahead and run the War Chat with Corey Clark and Gene Williams and a special guest. Should we tell them what the game's going to be?
Yeah, and I thought we were supposed to do that in the happy hour. Gene asked us to do it, and then we got one of our 36 phone calls, and we never got back to it. But yeah, it's going to be EJ Manuel is our guest. He talks with us for, I would say, probably about 40, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
He complimented me on my beard.
He did.
Although I don't think that was in the part of the show that people will see. But yeah, it was EJ, man. He's just a very nice. He's smarter than both of us, and was really good about that game and about that 2012 season in general. He even brought up the NC State game, actually, so we didn't have to. But we're doing the Clemson game. We're doing the 2012 Clemson game.
What a game! It
was a great game.
When you guys said you're going to get EJ for one of these, I'm like, what's God bless him, but what's EJ's big, claim, what's like his big signature win here? And I'm like, well, that 2012 Clemson game. Because I remember like the group text message, or like I remember going on Facebook, probably one of the last times I actually used Facebook. I was just like, it's official, we're finally back. Like that game was like, all right, we're finally. We're going to get. And
in a way, it was. I know there was disappointment later on that season. I know that season was a little bit too uneven, but it was. It was a big stage, big moment. 2 top 10 teams. Florida State won. It helped them, or it basically gave them. They still had to beat Virginia Tech, but it gave them the ACC championship, and it was a springboard into 2013. So I think that was the official declaration that Florida State was back, and it actually was true. In like the time, was it Texas?
Right.
Texas is back, folks.
Beat Notre Dame.
Who they beat? Notre Dame or somebody?
Yeah.
Texas is back, and then Charlie Strong gets fired the next 3 months later.
Yeah. It happens. All right, we'll be back with that on Wednesday. By we, mainly Corey, and then Gene, obviously. It'll be great. I've edited it. I think you'll all enjoy it. And then Friday we'll do Renegade Express, so do post and leave your questions over on the Tribal Council. For Corey, I'm Azon. Thanks so much once again for listening to Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good.
Some call them lunchtime lifesavers. Others call them the most perfect sandwiches to ever exist. At Zaxby's, we just call them our signature fan favorites. The Southern TLC Filet Sandwich has hand-breaded chicken with fresh tomato and crisp lettuce. The famous Kickin' Chicken Sandwich features spicy tongue torch and Cool Ranch sauces. And for a limited time, fried pickles are back. 2 classic sandwiches and a legendary appetizer. 3 more reasons you're gonna get a kick out of Zaxby's.